Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we haven't talked much about the strikes in Hollywood in the last week or two because there's not really much to talk about. Basically, they had meetings and the meetings didn't go as well as they'd wanted. The studios were actually kind of caving and giving the writers pretty much everything they asked for except for that writer's room, the minimum number of people that had to work there. And they turned their nose up at like, what is it, $11,000 to $14,000 a week? Wow.
Well, depending if you were, whichever term you were.
Right. But still, that is way more money than most people will ever make, right? And so now we're kind of back to square one with it. But one of the things that's, I found very fascinating about this strike is how it's not a unified front, right? When they first started striking, they're like, we're all in this together. And then the directors got theirs like almost immediately. And then all of a sudden we had SAG-AFTRA and the WGA cutting deals with independent studios. Mm-hmm. And then they got called out for that because they're like, wait, we're all supposed to be on strike, but you guys are out here still working. And they're like, oh yeah. We're not gonna do that anymore because that's a bad look for us because we're all in this together. Well, apparently not, because The Walking Dead is resuming production. The spinoffs are resuming production.
So is Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, these are AMC, and AMC is apparently not part of AMP-TIP. But, and AMC agreed to give them what they wanted. So they're letting them go ahead back to work. And I mean, it's good for the people that are below the line who, have nothing because all this is going on. They get back to work too. So, I mean, there are good things about it. However, it is interesting because they said they weren't going to give any more of these waivers.
Yeah, the interim agreements.
Yeah, and now here we are again with more because,
I think we're going to see more and more of this as the strike drags on because we're already, I think, past the length of the strike in 2007. Mm-hmm. That was like 100 days and we're like, I don't know.
Well, that was for the writers anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, it doesn't look like there's any end in sight. Nobody wants to budge. And
the studios are pushing back their movies to next year.
They're like, yeah, it's fine. We get to save money, right? That's good for us. We get to save money. We were going to cancel stuff anyway, and you guys are making it so easy for us to do that. This is all planned. And what gets me is they played right into it. I just don't understand how you didn't see this. They wanted you to go on strike so they didn't have to pay you. That's why they did what they did. And when they're ready to turn the money back on, then that's when the strike is going to end. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, if you do, you'll get a woohoo.
Woohoo!
Go out to clownfishtv.com for more objective pop culture news. Go out to piratesandprincesses.net for more objective Disney news. And yeah, this is really interesting because it does not appear that these striking actors and writers are on a unified front here, right? This is coming from Entertainment Weekly. Walking Dead spinoffs will resume production amid strikes. Interview with the Vampire will also resume production after the network negotiated with SAG-AFTRA. After Fran Drescher said, we're not going to do these deals anymore.
Right. So they basically said, we'll give you what you want. And they're like, okay, interim agreements.
Yep. 2 spinoffs of The Walking Dead are set to resume after AMC Networks negotiated with SAG-AFTRA.
Here's my question. If it was a matter of it didn't impact the indies because they weren't part of AMP-TIP, then why were any of these stopped anyway? You know what I'm saying, Ben? Any of these independents they shouldn't be getting special interim agreements. None of the filming should have been stopped. If it was only by who was part of AMP-TIP, then none of them should have ended the production, right? They should have continued the whole time.
I don't know, unless they already had.
That doesn't sound right.
Unless they already had the scripts locked. I don't know. I think what's going on is basically they're desperate. They're looking for every loophole they can look for to get something going.
Right. And the thing is, though, I mean, meanwhile, it's okay for this. It's okay to sign because they're not part of AMP-TIP, so they can make interim agreements. Well, influencers aren't part of SAG-AFTRA, but they're being told by SAG-AFTRA they're not allowed to do stuff, or they're going to be barred from ever joining the union. That seems like an awful big conflict of interest there. I mean, doesn't seem like a double standard?
Yeah, it does. So Walking Dead, so I'm looking at this, I'm like, how many damn spinoffs do they have? And it basically is a continuation of the Walking Dead series. They're just splitting everybody up. It's like, wait a second. This is dumb. So they're effectively continuing the Walking Dead is what they're doing. But anyway, here they said AMC is able to negotiate a deal with SAG-AFTRA because the network is not technically a member of AMTIP,
Correct.
which you said. The negotiating group representing Hollywood's major studios and streamers. Instead, it's an authorized company, which means it's not at the table negotiating.
Right. So again, if they weren't part of the issue, why would they have to have an interim agreement for the actors to work with them? Wouldn't they have just continued work?
You would think.
I'm saying that doesn't make sense. Like I have questions.
The network has no official comment on the interim agreements. I'm sure they don't, because people are going to be looking at this like, wait a second. I'm not allowed to work. I lost my house. The writers are turning down $11,000 to $14,000 a week, and these assholes still get to work. What the hell? After you said you weren't going to cut these side deals.
Again, Adam Driver was promoting Ferrari at the Venice Film Festival, saying he was proud of the movie because it's not part of AMTIP. Again, so they're allowed to go to these premieres when it's not part of AMTIP. They're allowed to film when they're not part of AMTIP, but they have to have permission.
But, okay, so if they're not part of AMTIP, neither are YouTubers. And we were told, even if you're not a member of the union, that we're not allowed to promote any of these movies.
Because SAG-AFTRA doesn't like it.
Because SAG-AFTRA doesn't like it. But you've got actors out there that are members of the union promoting...
Because they're not AMTIP movies.
Well,
so
we're not an AMTIP studio either. So.
But I'm just saying, it doesn't make sense. If the actors were never, if not being part of AMTIP, studios not being part of AMTIP meant they can continue work, why do they have to have interim agreements? You know what I mean?
They said they were going to stop this because people were calling them out. Sarah Silverman was calling them out. I'm like, look, you strike, that's on you. You guys decided to strike, that's on you. But it makes it really hard to take it seriously when you're out there telling people that don't belong to the union that they have to strike with you, and then turning around and cutting side deals, on technicalities.
Right, but it doesn't make any sense, because if they were never part of the strike, these non-AMTIP studios were supposedly never part of the strike.
Yeah.
And that's their excuse. We can give interim agreements because they're not part of AMTIP. Then why do you have to have interim agreements at all? Shouldn't it just continue business as usual? Because they're not part of those studios.
Yeah.
And actors can go promote movies that aren't part of those studios, but YouTubers aren't allowed to talk about films that are.
Yeah, I don't understand the rules. And again, they got called out for this. They
the
stopped
rules change depending on the week.
Who it is, how hard up for cash they are, whether or not people were threatening to leave the union.
They gave them.
Yeah, I have no idea. But this isn't like, I'm not looking at AMC. Even though they're not part of AMTIP, The Walking Dead is a huge franchise. Mm-hmm. This isn't like some indie art house movie, that they were getting the waivers before. This is like a big deal. This is a major franchise, and AMC is like, yeah, hey, we're going to go ahead and do this because we're not part of the studio. And this is after they said they weren't going to do the side deals. I don't understand. I
don't either. It just seems like it's very arbitrary.
Yeah, it is. And it's not helping their case any. I mean, the public is aware of how much money these guys turn down now, thanks to the studios.
WGA, but yeah.
Yeah, that was the WGA. But, I'm saying, like, how long is this going to go on their end? Because everything I've heard is the studios they're willing to take it to the end of the year, if not beyond. Well,
clearly they're pushing movies back that weren't scheduled for release in November. Next year.
Wouldn't it be? Yeah, right? Because they weren't going to have anybody there to promote them. So wouldn't it be very, very odd? It'd be very, very odd if all of a sudden, like, everybody's making movies and TV shows again, just not like Disney, because we don't like them.
Just not AMTIP. We're starting a new studio, but you're not part of AMTIP, so we can go work for you.
We're going to go start, we'll go start a new studio, and then, after the strikes are over, then we'll just, like, sell that content to Disney or Netflix or somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Like, it's get run into the ground by the other people and then go work back. We'll go back to Disney and Netflix anyway.
Like, look, if you're going to do it, stick to your guns. They're not even sticking to their guns. Like, if you can get that money and you can get what you're looking for, fantastic. And we told you at the beginning you were not going to get it that easily given the financial position these studios are in. And now you can't even go on strike properly. You got to keep breaking the picket line yourselves.
Don't you dare.
Oh,
don't you dare cross that picket line as a YouTuber.
Don't you dare.
Or as an Instagram person or whatever, you have to, as an influencer of some kind. Because if you do, you're never allowed to join SAG-AFTRA.
Oh, fuck
But
off.
if you're
I
already
don't
an
care.
established actor who wants to go work for AMC, we'll give you an interim agreement.
Yeah,
That's
right.
fine because you're you.
Yeah, and you can go promote it and all that jazz. Just like, it's just business as usual. It's like nothing's happening, right? We're going to wrap this up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.
Help support the channel. Go to thereef.support and get early access to podcasts, videos, and other content. That's thereef.support.